Português Phonatics. There are 12 letters in Portuguese language. Its pronunciation is different within the word. First letter is letter A, which is presented in English as A. We have two pronunciations for letter A within a word. First one is pronounced as A. The example that we have here is the word to speak, which is in Portuguese
falar, falar.
So here, as you see, we say falar, falar. The second pronunciation is a light A or a light A. The example that we have here is the word that, which in Portuguese is
Aquele, aquele.
So here we don't say aquele, we say aquele, a light A. Second letter is letter C. As C in English, we have two pronunciations for this letter either. First one is pronounced as K or K in Portuguese. The example that we have here is the word house, which means in Portuguese
casa, casa.
The second pronunciation is S. So we pronounce letter C as S. The example that we have here is the word aware, which is in Portuguese
ciente, ciente.
The third letter is letter E. We have three pronunciations for this letter. We can pronounce it as E. The example that we have here is the word I, which is in Portuguese
eu.
The second pronunciation is A, which is a light A. The example that we have here is the word to drink, which is
bebe, bebe.
So we don't say baby, we say baby, a light A. The third pronunciation for letter E is pronounced as E. The example that we have here is you eat, which means in Portuguese
come, come.
Notice that when letter E comes by the end of the word, we pronounce it always as E. Then we have letter G. We have two pronunciations for this letter. We can pronounce it as G. For example, the word cat, which means
gato, gato.
So, we pronounce it as ga if it's followed by the vowels a, o, u. The second pronunciation is like G or J in English. The example that we have here is the word generous, which means in Portuguese
generoso, generoso.
Then we have letter H, which have two pronunciations in a word. First one is natively silent, so we don't pronounce letter H always when it comes in the beginning of the word or in the initial. The example that we have here is the word today, which means in Portuguese
hoje, hoje.
The second pronunciation is pronounced as letter Y in English, with more a closed sound. The example that we have here is word work, which means in Portuguese
trabalho, trabalho,
Then we have letter L, which has two pronunciations in a word. Always when it comes in the beginning of the word, we pronounce as L in English. The example that we have here is the word milk, which means in Portuguese
leite, leite,
The second pronunciation for this letter is pronounced as U or W in English when it comes by the end of the word. The example that we have here is the word Brazil, which means in Portuguese.
Brasil, Brasil,
Then we have letter M, which has three pronunciations within a word. When it comes in the beginning of the word or in the initial, we pronounce as M in English. The example that we have here is the word mosque, which means in Portuguese
mesquita, mesquita,
The second pronunciation for this letter is pronounced as W or U in Portuguese. The example that we have here is verb you live, which means in Portuguese
moram, moram,
The third pronunciation for letter M is pronounced like a light N in English. The example that we have here is the word time or weather, which means in Portuguese
tempo, tempo,
The eighth letter that we have is letter O, which has three pronunciations within a word. First pronunciation is the entire O. The example that we have here is the word hi, which means in Portuguese
oi, oi,
As you see, we say O, oi, entire O. The second pronunciation for this letter is unfinished O. So it's not a complete O. The example that we have here is the word powder, which means in Portuguese
pó, pó,
The third pronunciation for this letter is pronounced as oo. Always, when it comes by the end of the word, it's pronounced as oo. The example that we have here is the word boy, which means in Portuguese
garoto, garoto,
The ninth letter is the letter R, which is R in English. We have two pronunciations for this letter. We can pronounce it as H in English. The example that we have here is the word rat, which is in Portuguese
rato, rato,
So this letter, when it comes by the beginning of the word or as a second letter, we can pronounce it as H in English. The second pronunciation for this letter is R, entire R. The example that we have here is verb to wait, which is in Portuguese.
esperar, esperar,
Then we have letter S. Letter S has two pronunciations within a word. First one is pronounced as S in English. The example that we have here is the pronoun we, which is in Portuguese.
nós, nós,
The second pronunciation for letter S is pronounced as Z. The example that we have here is the word traffic, which means
trânsito, trânsito,
The 11th letter is letter X, which is X in English. We have four pronunciations for this letter within a word. First one is pronounced as CH or SH in English. The example that we have here is the word cup, which means
xícara, xícara,
the second pronunciation for this letter when we pronounce it as Z. The example that we have here is the word exactly, which means in Portuguese
exatamente, exatamente,
the third pronunciation for this letter is a pronunciation KSC. When it comes by the end of the word or between two vowels, we pronounce it like that, KSC, or X in English. The example that we have here is the word chest, which means in Portuguese,
tórax, tórax,
or the word taxi, which means in Portuguese.
táxi, táxi,
The fourth pronunciation for this letter is pronounced as letter S in English when it's followed by a consonant. The example that we have here is the word excellent, which means in Portuguese.
excelente, excelente,
The 12th letter that we have here is letter Z or Z in English. We have two pronunciations for this letter. First one we pronounce as Z. The example that we have here is verb to organize, which means in Portuguese.
organizar, organizar,
The second pronunciation for this letter is pronounced as S when it comes by the end of the word. The example that we have here is the word chess, which means in Portuguese.
xadrez, xadrez.
You can download the material down there in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like it, just subscribe the channel and share the video. If you want to learn more, you can take our course, Now Speak Portuguese. And you're going to learn everything about Brazilian Portuguese. See you guys next video. Bye bye.